Yeah.
They're both recorded anyway, so you just start whenever.
So whenever, okay. So Reece, first off, where did your love for Barrytown start?
My funny enough, my love for Barrytown just came out of the bloom, really. You know, you get the stories of the attraction, you know, what a football club standing out for you. But originally, it was Cardiff City at first. When I was a kid, I was oblivious to what Barrytown was. You know, I didn't think Barrytown existed, and I think it was in the mid 2009 or late 2009 that I heard about it. And I heard about the times when Barrytown dominated in Europe. Well, not dominated Europe. They played in European. They dominated the Welsh Football League system. They dominated against Cardiff, Swansea, and it was just hearing the stories, and then I just started thinking, was it the right choice to be supporting Cardiff City? So then, when I went to go and watch Barry, I remember it was like an article, about that big, and I just went and I read it, and I saw it was like Barrytown v Coruscant. So I went there, and then moving on, I just fell in love with Barrytown then, and my love for Cardiff City sort of deteriorated after all the politics and the drama that was happening with under Vincent Tan ownership. But ever since then, I've not looked back, and I continue to love and show my passion for Barrytown ever since. So I think it was when I went to my first ever game, like any other football fan, really.
And you've now gone on to, you're part of the furniture of Barrytown, one of the most recognisable fans. Now you're the
I don't know about recognisable.
Now you're now you're hosting the Barrytown pod as well.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the voices of Barrytown, and what's that like?
It's bonkers, because funny enough, I mean, I always wanted to be like a director, a writer, actor, really. So anyway, but nah, I seem to be more recognised for my support for Barrytown than I am for doing actual acting work or anything like that. So it's amazing feeling. But it's to be the voice. Well, I can't really say I'm the voice of Barrytown, because everyone's got a voice. You know, we've all got voices. We all got a. I mean, if you look at Ryan Cox, he's the talent guy. He's the voice of Jenna Park. I mean, I think it's humbling for you to say that. Yeah, I'm the voice of Barrytown, but everyone's got a voice, and it's just one big voice, one big community. So,
I mean, that being doing the podcast as well. I've seen you've got players on. You've had, club fans on. Everyone's been talking about it. Surely it must raise the profile of the club.
So all right, I'll tell you how it first started. It wasn't intended to be on local radio. It wasn't intended to be on Bro Radio at all. What I wanted to do, because I do my own away days travelling vlog show on YouTube, I thought, well, I'll do my very own Barrytown podcast or something like that, and looking to expand on different fields and that. And so, of course, I haven't got the money, I haven't got the equipment, so I contacted Bro Radio, Nathan Spackman, and I said, look, I'd like to use one of your studios. Can I rent one out per week? And he said, why don't you come in and we talk about it? And I went, okay. And next, I got a podcast under the Bro Radio name. He said, look, it's going to cost you a lot of money to rent out the studio. So I was like, oh, fair enough then. And then all of a sudden it just grew and grew, because I didn't want it just to be about purely on what is happening on the now. Let's look back on the then, so the past. So let's look back on games like the Porto game, games like the Dynamo Kiev, moments like when we went bust, and moments like these. So I try to get not just the current players or the current staff in, but the fans who've been there and done that, the players who've played for Barrytown. And it grew to a point where it became a radio show, and I just think, it's incredible, and it does raise awareness. And I mean, I get a lot of people coming up to me now saying, what you're doing for the club is absolutely fantastic, because you're spreading the word out. It's spreading the community, to get the community going and going to these games, and it's fantastic, really.
And I mean, you said about then reflecting on the past. Previously, Barrytown had a more of a roller coaster journey almost. I mean, they've gone down the lower leagues a lot due to off-field issues. Now go back up to where they belong in the Welsh Premier League. As a fan, during that turbulent time of uncertainty, what was it like for Barrytown?
Well, because I started supporting Barry in 2010, so it's 3 years since, it was 3 years prior to the moment of the court case and issues. I knew there was problems, but I didn't know how bad they were going to be until I think it was in late 2012 or something, because the then owner was threatening to withdraw us from the league. Then he was threatening to fire the manager, even though the supporters committee were basically running the football aspects of it. So Gavin was going to be working for the supporters. So when the inevitable, it was inevitable, came, it was a sign of relief because that person was gone, but I think we were being a bit naive because then we thought, right, how are we going to get back into this and everything? We thought it was going to be simple, just apply, because the FAW, you know, they were on our side at first, and then all of a sudden it's just like a big M. Night Shyamalan twist, you know, where all of a sudden they just turned into the villains, you know, and it just became a big shock. And the court case itself, I just thought, you know, I've only just started supporting Barry. I mean, it's 3 years I've been supporting Barry, and I don't want it to go. And of course, people would say, oh, we were going to win it because we had a fair chance. But then it's that what if moment, what if we did? And now, years later, you know, and I've been supporting Barry Town for 10 years now, and I just thought, you know what, in my time supporting Barry, I've seen Barry win league titles, reach finals, semi-finals of the Welsh Cup, League Cup, European football, and it's a one big roller coaster. But I look back and I want to relive it again. I don't know if it sounds weird because it was a time of, like, some people say it was a dark moment for Barry Town, but you just want to go back and just relive it because the journey was fun, and it was so bonkers. I can't think of the word to describe it, but it's one of those moments I'd like to go back and just relive over again, you know?
Yeah, and the fans as well. Well, there was a lot of, I mean, they stuck together during that time, there's no doubt about that. There was a lot of fundraisers as well for the club due to financial issues. How important were they? I mean, has been a factor of the club's survival during that time?
I think that the important part is to not consider that it was just mainly the supporters. You got officials as well, like Dave Cole, for example, the club secretary, who's been there since the late 80s. And, you know, I think everyone needs to give him more credit because he stuck around through thick and thin. Gavin Chesterfield as well, the manager. I mean, if you Dan, if you look back on all other football clubs, not just in Wales, but any football club, how many managers would you say that have actually stood by the club, stood by the teams in time of crisis? You can't think of many. The only one I could think of is Ali McCoist with Rangers. That's the only one. And Gavin Chesterfield. I don't know any other manager would do that because it's all about the money these days. But Gavin Chesterfield is the kind of manager who doesn't think like that. He thinks of football. He's a football man, and he knows what he can get out of a club. And because he's got the connections, that's why I think it kept us strong. And also his wife Hannah, I mean, she was the most important figure because she was the one behind the scenes. I don't think she gets enough credit.
Yeah, definitely.
I think she needs to get more credit than what she gets, really, because I think if it wasn't for her as well, we wouldn't be where we are, and including Eric Thomas and other people as well. So we all had an important role to play. But it's down to the people who wanted to galvanise everyone and get it going. There had to be a leader, and unfortunately we had multiple leaders.
And then, now you look back on that, when you reflect on the journey that they've been on as a club and you watching as a fan, and you talked about reflecting on how would you sum it out or sum it all up for this, from going from the top to the bottom to the top again?
A moment of madness. No, that's how it was madness. It was. You couldn't really think clearly how you would describe moments like these because it just happens, you know. And it's you know, just after the court case, right? I knew the target was. I remember the target was going to be just keep growing. But I remember turning up to a supporters meeting, right? Gavin just sat there, hands in his pockets, and he was asked the question, "What is the target?" You know, and he said when we were in Division 3, in 5 years I'm going to get Barry to the Welsh Premier League.
He really said that?
He said that. He said in 5 years I'm going to get Barry to the Welsh Premier League. That's the target.
Yeah.
He did that in 4.
brilliant, isn't
He
it?
did that in 4. He could have done it in 3, but Cardiff Met, we finished second in the Welsh League Division 1 at the time,
Yeah.
which is now Cymru South. We finished second under Cardiff Met, but still.
For any manager, I mean, you see, Chris Wilder getting that kind of praise for how he's carried Sheffield United
Yeah.
through leagues. It's same thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, do you know what? We've always thought of Gavin Chesterfield as the calmer, more modest Brian Clough, if you know what I mean. Because I don't know if some supporters would agree, but I always looked at Gavin as the more modest, calm, collected Brian Clough, because he will say it as it is, but he's more clever. You know, he's a football man, and it's like with Brian Clough. If you look back, if you compare those two managers, right? Brian Clough took, Derby, Nottingham Forest out of the shadows and into the spotlight, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Gavin, he took one club that was, a young manager, a very young manager. He took one small, it was a big club, but he took a club that was dying, and he just dragged them out of the dirt, out of no man's land, and into the promised land, and obviously I really want Gavin to win us the Welsh Premier League one day. I want him to win the Welsh Cup, and because he's the kind of manager that, he's been with the club since 2007, that could really, really get everyone going.
It'd be like the cherry on top of the cake.
Oh,
almost.
just, it'd be absolutely
Yeah.
fantastic, phenomenal. And for me to still be there and watch that happen, I'm going to take that with me to the day I die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a realistic objective in the next couple of years?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, come on. TNS don't stand a chance now in a few years. Come on. I think TNS needs to stop keeping our seats warm as champions. We want to take back the throne. Look, listen, I know Barry dominated in the late 90s and early 2000s, but you got to be honest. If it wasn't for Barry Town then, the League of Wales wouldn't have been taken seriously then, because they actually did compete proper professional football. And then if you compare that with TNS, who have just basically